Hi and welcome back to my channel where we talk about all things lipedema. As you can see with the title, it's a little bit of a different one today. Obviously it's a very personal issue and a difficult issue. So I'm going to be talking about my experience with IVF and with lipedema. This is a content warning. There will be discussions of fertility issues and miscarriage. So if you're not in the right mind space to watch this, skip along. I just want to add that I'm not a doctor or a medical professional, so I can't diagnose anyone or offer any medical advice. What I can do is share my research and my own personal experience. Without further ado, let's crack on. Me and my husband went through IVF a few years ago. I want to say 5 or 6 years ago. And at this point, I didn't actually know I had lipedema. We went through the usual channels of GP and then to the hospital, and then we were refused due to my BMI, therefore we had to go private. I live in England. We have a system where the NHS does provide free fertility treatment for those who qualify, and unfortunately BMI is a disqualifier. We found a clinic in London which accepted my high BMI. They were great. They are called Concept Fertility. Obviously it's been a few years, so I don't know if things have changed. Now I live in Derbyshire and London is about a 3-hour journey in a car. Obviously you're under a lot of emotional stress, physical stress, and I didn't appreciate how much added stress travelling would create. We were happy to still go ahead because my fertility was healthy. I had no issues. The issue was on the side of my husband, and he is happy for me to disclose that. I had my egg retrieval and we had 21 eggs retrieved. 5 went on to be embryos, and out of those 5 we had 1 blastocyst. The first round we had the 2 best quality embryos put in, and I became pregnant on the first try. Unfortunately it did end in a miscarriage. We went for a scan and there was no heartbeat. It stirred up a lot of difficult emotions, not knowing whether to carry on. We had the high of a positive pregnancy test and then the real lows of not having a viable pregnancy. But we decided to do another round. We had a negative pregnancy test, so it didn't work this time. And the third round, we only had 1 embryo left, and that also ended in a negative pregnancy test. From the medication I was taking, I did gain 3 stone. There's a lot of hormonal treatments and medication used during IVF. Skip forward to finding out about lipedema, what it was, and that I had lipedema. We thought we would contact our local fertility clinic, our NHS fertility clinic, which was Sheffield, to see if they'd consider us on an individual basis. We explained I've always had lipedema. When we were refused NHS treatment, we didn't know about the diagnosis, but I have the diagnosis now. I also had a letter from my lymphedema clinic who said that lipedema does impact your BMI. Surprisingly, they agreed to see us, so we went with a lot of hope that they'd take it seriously and consider us for NHS treatment. But we were turned away because my BMI was too high, which seemed really cruel because they knew what my BMI was before the meeting. And the doctor we saw had no interest in speaking to us about lipedema, learning about lipedema. Very confusing, as we don't really know why the meeting was scheduled, if that was the reason for turning us away. My current situation is we haven't conceived. I've gone on to have my lipedema surgery after this, and I do get asked which way round would you have preferred to do things. So in an ideal world where I knew that I had lipedema before the IVF, what would my preferred way have been? I really struggle to answer this because there's so many for and against having IVF treatment before, then liposuction, and the other way around. Having lipedema liposuction before any fertility treatment or pregnancy would have meant I could have reset my body, so I had some of the lipedema fat removed, improved my symptoms, and I'd have been allowed to recover without having children to look after. Also, any complications after liposuction wouldn't have impacted my child's life. Also, this is a sad fact, but if I'd have had my liposuction before any fertility treatment, my BMI may have been lowered, which may have meant I would qualify for NHS fertility treatment. As it stands, after my surgeries, I still wouldn't have qualified for NHS treatment. I just want to add here that Lipoedema liposuction isn't a weight loss surgery, so please don't set your hopes on liposuction to lower your BMI. So the other way around, having IVF treatment before lipoedema liposuction. One positive of having IVF treatment before liposuction, fertility treatment and pregnancy can add to the progression of lipoedema. Some people believe it's better to wait until you've had all your pregnancies and then to remove the diseased fat. Another thing to consider is age. As we know, age impacts fertility a lot, especially on the female side. Many lipoedema surgeons have long waiting lists, and it can take years to complete all the surgeries you need if you're at advanced stages. It's best to speak to your surgeon or a fertility specialist to see what their professional opinion is. So age is a big important factor. Also, financial independence is important. If I think back to before we started IVF, and I think if I'd have known I had lipoedema and I knew I was having IVF treatment, what would I have done? It's so hard. I think at that moment in time, I would have had the lipoedema treatment first. Throughout my life, people have just been non-stop talking about my weight. Despite being completely medically healthy, I've been told, your BMI is too high, your BMI is too high, you need to lose weight, you need to lose weight. And I think at that stage in my life, I would have wanted this surgery to reduce the volume in my body. I was quite young, so I was about 26-ish, having IVF treatment, so I don't think I'd have worried about my age too much. See, now after I've had my surgeries, I know complications can happen. I've had 5 liposuctions, 3 were fine. The second one, I had a blood clot and I had to have a blood transfusion in the UK. And my 5th one, I had a lot of complications. During the surgery, I suffered a stroke. Realistically now, I'd have done liposuction first. It's such a difficult decision to make, and it's easy to think what you would have done in retrospect. Good news is that we are still trying to pursue having our family. Hopefully one day I'll be able to do some positive videos about that, but we'll see. So that's it for today. Thank you for watching. I'm really sorry if it's been a little bit heavy. If you'd like to connect with me, you can find me on Instagram. My username is @fat_bottom_Amy. Thanks for joining me today, and I hope you'll join me for the next video. Bye!